Lovely. So I'm going to start in child's pose, and just want it to be a nice, easy experience. So you could use the bolster and straddle. So it's underneath your chest and your chin, and you're taking sort of quite a high position in the spine. It's very supportive. You just bring your hands in. If you haven't got a bolster, you can bring yourself down to the floor, and you might want to bring your hands underneath your forehead or place a block underneath there. We're just going to take a moment to easily open up the hips and knees and ankles. We're going to be here for another minute or so. Letting that breath gently settle down. If it helps, closing the eyes. So this is not particularly yin-esque. It's if you're straddling the bolster as I am, it's more of a restorative pose, but it's actually a very good opening posture as well. It's a nice calming effect on the body. It's not too tough on any of the joints. Slowly bring ourselves back up. Move the bolster that I was using out to the side. Plenty of room out there. And we're going to lift up onto all fours and just bring the knees back underneath the body. And if you feel that you need to stretch the legs out one leg at a time, to just kind of open out the back of the knees and feel like there's some blood passing through again, you can do. And then we'll move into the posture known as melting heart. So we take the hands wider than the shoulders, keep the hips over the knees, and slowly lower the chest to the floor. And we're trying to get a little bit of an arch in the mid to upper back. One of the things that can help that happen a little bit is if you tease and ease the armpits a little out to the side. Then we can use the forehead to the ground, or you could use a block underneath the head if the floor is unobtainable. Now, when we're trying to ease into the spine, we do want to press into the hands just enough so that the shoulder muscles are active and we're not sitting completely into the joints. So it's a little bit of a softer stretch into the shoulders, but a little bit more work. Now we'll slowly walk the hands back. So we push the hips towards the back of the mat. Feel the balance change through the body. We can then lift ourselves back up onto all fours. I'm going to take my block, portrait side and slide that towards my heels and bring my knees together and feet out wide so I can sit back on my haunches and then onto the block. So again, you could be sitting on the end of the bolster if that was necessary. Be a little higher. There's a little bit of internal rotation in the thighs. We try and keep the knees together. The heels slide to the outside of the hips so we can sink in nicely and the toes are pointing backwards. And we'll let the arms just lengthen out gently. And we'll bring my left arm across and the right arm over the top and slowly bring the palms together. And drop the elbows in towards the body. And we're just going to try and breathe a little gently into the back of the shoulders and the ribs. Release the arms out, cross over the opposite way. We're doing our best to let the shoulders relax down and broaden out. When we first come into the pose, and surprisingly, the shoulders are pulling around towards the front of the mat quite a strong way. I'm trying to release the muscles and the tension and the tendons and see if we can let a feeling of moving the shoulders back more into a natural position, closer in towards the line of the body. Release from here, the arms first, bring them back down to the floor, lift ourselves off and just move the block out to the side. Again, we're going to come up onto all fours and if necessary, take a little slow stretch of the legs backwards, just to kind of get the feeling back into the knees, which is generally created by a little bit of blood flow coming in. And then we'll come down onto our elbows. We're going to take Sphinx pose. So easing our way down onto our bellies, attempting to get the elbows a little ahead of the shoulders, rolling the shoulders back and letting them move towards the ceiling. So sinking the chest down. So we are compressing the lower spine, but it's in a fairly sort of gentle, hopefully, manner. We try and keep the legs very soft and relaxed. So just letting the legs roll to wherever they want to. Mine generally roll out to the side a little bit, but Not everybody's body is the same, so wherever you roll to freely, allow your body to go that way. We'll bring ourselves down to the full complete. We're going to bring the feet back onto the center line for the half frog pose. We'll take the right knee out to the side first, 90 degrees to the body. Shin runs parallel to the mat, toes out to the side. If you feel that you want to turn the head very gently to the side, you can do. Generally, it's seen as moving towards the side that your knee is residing in. Be here for a couple of minutes, just letting the groins sink down easily to the floor. You may find that you need to wriggle and relax the shoulders around and down a little bit more. As the body sort of becomes more compliant and moves into the pose, the shoulders might adapt a little bit. Slowly bring that foot back on. And the leg back out. Take the feet hip distance apart again. Lift yourself slowly back up onto the elbows. Now this time, if you want to, you can bring the palms together and just interlace the fingers. So you're changing the position of the shoulders a little bit. We're still going to let the shoulders sink down. And then come down again, bring the feet in towards the center line. And when you're ready, slowly exhale your left leg out to the side. As we did before, turning the head if it feels comfortable. I'm going to keep my head forward a little bit just so that I can keep an eye on the clock. minute here. It's about this time that the shoulders can start to get that effect of needing to move around a little bit. And then chest drop, maybe a little closer to the floor. Scanning around the body, just checking if there's any way of releasing a little deeper into the groin and the hip. Muscles would contribute to that feeling of release. See if you can connect your mind to your body. A little bit like we can control our breath, maybe we can control the feeling in the muscle. Or perhaps not. We'll come back with the leg onto the mat. Shake it out a little bit. We want the feet to be hip distance apart. This is the second big shoulder stretch that we're going to have. And sometimes people like to bring the bolster underneath the chest to make it a little bit easier to hold themselves up. I don't particularly use it for myself. I'll take the hands out in front. Lift the body a little bit high. So I'm pressing the hands down. Then I'm going to take my left hand out to the right side, 90 degrees across the body. Then walk the fingers of the right hand across. So a big stretch. The arms are approaching 180 degrees apart from each other. And then I can let my chin just drop in towards my bicep and rest it there. And that's enough for me. I know that some people that doesn't really work. One, the shoulders might be a little higher, and also your neck might be a little shorter. So that's where sometimes having the bolster underneath the chest gives you that little bit of height. It just changes a alignment through the shoulder down through the fingertips, gives you a bit more space, which means ultimately you can breathe and swallow whilst you're still in the pose. I'm going to sit here for a couple of minutes on each side. Breathe in gently to the back of the shoulders. Feel them separate a little bit underneath the breath. Press the belly in towards the spine a little bit. Get a little bit more lift and walk the right hand out. Press that down into the floor to help get that little bit more space. I'm lifting myself up 1/4 inch or so, but it means I can extract the left hand out easily. And then we'll take the right arm out to the side and walk the fingers across of the left hand and try and get to that 180-degree point again. Now, some people can't get to the 180 degrees, that's fine. It's towards that position. I've not actually met anyone that can take it further than that, but I'm sure there probably are some people. Although I would imagine it's a good chance you get stuck if you try to do that. About a minute left. And try to keep the spine soft and the legs relaxed. Release the glutes if they're holding on in any particular way. We'll take our last couple of breaths here. And as we exhale, we'll draw the belly in and lift the chest just that little bit. So you can start to walk the left hand out in front, press into the floor to get even more height. So draw the right hand out. And I'm going to lay your chest down towards the ground and take the arms out to the side, crucifix style. And we'll bring the feet back a little more into the center line. I'm going to slowly bring my left hand underneath my left shoulder, roll onto my right side, walk the right hand out a little bit more. So I'm aiming to have the hips and the chest 90 degrees to the floor. I keep my eyes and face looking directly to the side of the mat. Might be able to peripherally see my toes down at the bottom of the mat, but I want to avoid moving the head down to have a look to see if the hips are 90 degrees or where the chest is. Just need to feel it and make sure that the stretch in the shoulder is a comfortable stretch. So don't need to go past 90 degrees, but you could be considerably lower. Here only for a couple of minutes. I'm really doing our best to release everything in the body down. It can be a little tricky when we're using that left hand to kind of stabilize ourselves a little bit. That's obviously doing a little bit of work. Gradually letting the legs and the hips down towards the floor. And then we'll roll gently back down to the floor. Wiggle the fingers of the right hand. So take the left hand out to the side, and then gradually in your own time, when you feel ready, you can roll onto that left side again. And start working on letting things sink down to the floor, more than focusing on trying to get the shoulder in any particular position. Kind of roll in, feel it stretch, that's enough. Let everything else go. Let the chest roll back down again. Wriggle out the fingers. And then start to draw the hands down towards the side of the body, towards the bottom of the ribs. I'm going to press the hands into the floor, so try and keep the elbows in and the shoulders back. And slowly peel away from the ground to come back up onto the floors. I'm going to sit back onto the heels. This time I'm going to sit directly down. So I'm not taking quite the saddle pose where the feet are wider. This is just to let my body lift up. I'll be here for another minute or so. Just getting the body used to being upright and letting the work that's happened in the spine kind of decompress out a little bit. Bringing it back to sort of a feeling of normality. So return into equilibrium. Okay, now let myself lift up. We're going to take a shoelace cross with the legs. So we'll need the block again. We'll lift up first of all. Onto all fours, bring the knees together. I'm going to draw the left knee forwards until I can cross the left foot over towards the right side of the mat, and then bring the thighs back together again. I'm going to have a little wriggle so that I can easily move the feet out to the sides of the mat, so one thigh on top of the other, and then being very aware of how my knees and ankles and hips feel. I'm going to sit back down gently onto the block. Now, if you need a bit more height, that's fine. But if you're able to arrive on the block, that's great. If you are able to get down right to the floor, that's fine as well. We want to be able to feel a little bit of work in the ankles, the knees, and the hips, but not to a point where we're gritting our teeth and holding our breath. We just want to be able to sit here and relax the legs, which is a challenge because they're in a fairly compressed state. They will release eventually, but they'll take a minute and a half. Just that's how long it takes the nervous system to react and the muscles to release a little bit, and then move around and go through that process a couple of times. We are going to progress this pose into different levels, but before we do that, we will do the other arrangement as well, where we take the right leg forwards. So we'll bring the hands to the floor, lean in a little bit, push the fingertips into the ground, move the block out of to the side again. Come onto all fours and untangle your legs. Bring the knees back into the center line. Draw the right knee forwards. Take the foot across and back. Then a little bit of jiggering around to get the feet out nice and wide. And then as you gently sit back, find our friend the block and place it behind to try and get those sitting bones to arrive. Sometimes you have to kind of jiggle around with the block as well, as it can be a bit hit and miss. You're not entirely sure where your bottom's going to land. The more you practice, kind of the better you get at it, but every now and again you can surprise yourself. And maybe noticing whether this side feels different to be in than the first side. If there are differences, how would you describe it? If there aren't any differences, that's okay as well. Okay, now lift from here. So fingers on the floor again. Roll ourselves forwards, move our friendly block out to the side. Untangle the legs. We'll go back to the first side. So the left leg comes forwards, slides back, feet go wide. We sit back gently and take the block back and under. Allow ourselves to sit up. I'm going to take a breath and then deliberately fold forwards over those front thighs. And when you get to about halfway of where you think you can go, just take the hands down to the floor, just for a little bit of balance and safety. You can let the head hang. Now, whether you lean forwards and round the spine, or whether you just round the spine, which might sound like the same thing, they do feel slightly differently. Let your instincts allow you to move in the direction your body wants to go. So rather than kind of imposing a movement, we're just going to see where we get to. And maybe you're able to get your ribs and your thighs to touch a little bit. So go a breath from there and lift ourselves back up and draw ourselves forwards. Untangle the legs. Move that block out. It's over the opposite way. So right leg forwards, feet out wide. It's our way down. Bring the block in. Arrive. Sit tall. And then fold gently forwards. Remember to move the hands out for that little bit of balance and safety. So where you get to. Try to keep the breath soft and long and even. Definitely feel the diaphragm moving and working underneath you. We'll lift back up. And forwards again. Untangle. Take the left leg forwards. Take the feet wide and ease our way back. And our trusty block. And as we sit up tall, we're going to take a twist. So I'm going to twist towards the left side, trying to bring the fingers to the floor behind me and using the hands just to guide myself around on that front leg. Now I'm taking the option to look over the rear shoulder. It feels easy to do that in my neck. If that feels the same for you, great. If you need to keep the chin following your heart, that's fine as well. And we'll lift up from here, untangle this twist, lift forwards, move the block out, onto the forwards, untangle and take ourselves back again. There's a lot of repetition here, I know, but it's all for the cause. Sit gently back, bring our block with us, sit up nice and tall, and then gently turn to the right. Move ourselves back again. Move our block out onto all fours. So we'll take a little breath from here. Stretch out both legs behind us one at a time. And take a little breath here. Sit back onto the heels. Move the block just behind the toes. Hands forwards, lift up, roll the toes underneath, and then see if we can roll the heels back onto the block. So you take your knees away from the ground. You might need to move the block a smidge forwards. Now the feet are more or less pointing forwards. They may be out or in a few degrees, that's not a problem. Let the knees find their own place. So if they happen to follow the feet, great, but if they move out to the side, that's not a problem. And I'm going to rest my arms on top of my kneecaps and then just bring my palms together. And if it's easy, use my thumb with a little bit of a rest on my forehead. We've got about another minute sitting here. Now, you don't have to be completely static. You can move and wriggle around in the pose. For many of us, the ankle joint gets a little bit hot at this point. That's where the tendons run through the sheaths in the ankle. We'll take a breath there. Let ourselves lean forwards and bring the knees back down to the floor. Slowly untuck the toes, sit back onto the heels just for a moment, and then move the block out to the side. And to roll my bottom down to the side of the mat, I guess you could go either way that you wanted to. And we'll take the legs out in front, down the center line, and flex the toes back and lengthen the heels away. Let the hands alongside the body and let the shoulders relax out to the sides, and just try and press the sitting bones down to the floor a little bit, the crown towards the sky. Also drawing the belly in a little bit. We're working a little more into yang now. So we want to be thinking about lengthening the legs. Now, although I said lengthen out through the heels, we really want to try and lengthen out through the thighs and the hamstrings, the shins and the calves evenly. So think about the whole of the leg moving down rather than just the heel, which tends to activate the lower part of the leg and not the top part so much. I find this a very strong pose. Legs are trembling a little bit. Spine feels like it's doing some work. And to take advantage of being here by taking the hands a little further back, about shoulder distance apart. Keeping the belly drawn in, I'm going to roll the shoulders back towards the back of the mat, and then I'm going to press the shoulder blades down towards the floor and let my chest lift towards the sky, still with my feet flexed and lengthening out through the legs in the same way that we had before. So really opening out the chest. Working those shoulders down. Nice breath. And then draw the belly in. Press the fingers into the floor to help lift yourself back up. I'm going to cross the ankles over and come up onto all fours and move into down dog. So if you find that rolling onto the shins with crossed ankles is not pleasant, then whatever way gets you back up onto all fours. Make sure the shoulders are over the wrists. We spread the fingers out so little finger and thumb are as far apart as we can get them to be. Draw the shoulders back a little bit, just gently, tuck toes underneath, and then lift the hips up and back. Allow yourself to take advantage of lifting up into your down dog, pressing the heels towards the back of the mat, letting the toes lift away from the floor. So you're kind of rolling on the ball joint of the foot. Move slowly into a plank. Let myself come down to the floor, so I'm going to ease the knees in first, and then bring elbows down, and the legs away, and to be able to make sure that my chin is going to be easily on the mat if I need to bring my chin to the floor, which is pretty much where it's going to be. I'm going to bring my hands underneath my chin, elbows out to the side, and let myself sink into the ground. I'm going to wriggle the legs out, get distance apart, get those legs to be as long as I can, and then I'm going to slowly draw my right leg in, take my right hand back, find my toes, and then let that heel come in towards the bottom. So you could use the strap around the ankle and the foot to draw the leg in if you find it a little tricky to find the foot. So you've got long body, short arms, or you've got particular issues with the shoulder. In terms of mobility, the strap could be used. Once you're in position, you can see if you can lengthen the right knee towards the bottom of the mat, and that will give you a sensation of pressing your thigh down into the floor. And then a release from there. And very gently start to bend the other leg. Get the hand back and bring that leg in gently, lengthening the knee away. Just progressively, just increasing the stretch every sort of 10, 15 seconds or so. Release that leg as well. Wriggle out the hips. We're going to see if we can move into bow pose. So going to lengthen the spine and the pelvis in different directions as we bend the knees. Take a breath, take one hand at a time back to find an ankle. And then press the thighs down into the floor, chin on the ground. And we're still trying to get that spine to be as long as you can. So think about extending out. And then we're going to start to flex the ankles and press the shins towards the back of the mat. At the same time, we'll let the shoulders roll back into towards the spine a little. Now, once you've got to a comfortable place, we're going to take another breath in and then slowly start to press the soles of the feet towards the sky. And hopefully that will lift gently the thighs away from the ground. Pressing the shins towards the back of the mat. And then releasing back down. Bring the hands back down towards the bottom of the ribs, palms facing down, elbows squeeze in, shoulders back. And as you exhale, press away from the floor to lift yourself back up onto all fours. I'm going to sit onto the heels again as we gently move that block back into the position behind us. Let ourselves roll out to the side just to finally bring our bottoms back to rest. Legs out in front, move that strap again. Bring the right heel into the groin and let the knee sink out to the floor. You might want to pack that out a little bit. And I'm going to take the strap and just hook that around the sole of the left foot. Lean forwards a little bit. And as you do so, allow yourself to have a little bit of a bend in the knee. Keep the arms nice and long. Lift the spine up. Press the leg into the strap. Draw the shoulder blades back. So quite often when we do this with a forward fold. This is clearly sitting as upright as we can be, but rolling the shoulders back. And that activates everything just as well. We're still pressing the shin of the right leg down. Lengthening out the leg that we practiced at the beginning of the, or in the middle of the class. I was thinking of a different beginning to a different class. Definitely in the middle. Feel the shoulders working. Feel the leg kind of cooperating and taking the balance of that opposite movement. So slowly release the pressure in the shoulders. So we don't collapse completely, we kind of just turn it off slowly. I like it turning the gas down nice and gently, one temperature digit at a time. We'll bring the left leg in. Obviously, if you've got an electric oven, that's probably not going to work very well for you. So, gas. Take the strap around the foot again, a little bend in the knee. Let ourselves sit up tight, tall. Get a nice grip, straight arms. Start to work the leg away and draw the shoulders back in each measure. Be careful to avoid pressing the knee down. The leg is lengthening away. I'm still working on that shin bone on the left side going down to the floor. sort of square to the front of the mat. And then again, just release gently. And then we'll move the strap out to the side. I'm going to bring the soles of both feet in towards my body for Baddha Konasana. So another pose where we sit upright. We bring the heels in close towards the body. You can hold on to the ankles or the shins, or you can hook your index finger, middle finger around the big toe. You want to make an effort to sit up tall. And as you lift the crown of your head high, press your sitting bones down and your little toes as well. And you'll notice that as you do that, the whole of your legs will kind of join in as well. Sneaky way of getting the knees to lengthen out a little bit. And I'm going to release and scoop my legs up with my hands and move off of the block. Now you could move the block towards the back of the mat to use it as a cushion underneath your head. I'm going to use my bolster, since I've got one, to place underneath the back of my knees. So I'm just going to roll in gently, and we're taking the feet out as wide as the mat and making sure that the heels stay on the ground. I'm going to use the hands to support, chin in towards the chest, roll down a little bit using some muscles in my abdomen to hold myself up as I control my landing. And then finally, sink into the mat. Again, you might need to wriggle around a little bit to find your sort of most comfortable place. Even being aware of how your clothes are making connection to you. Maybe you need to wriggle them around and adjust a little bit. Just finally come into a peaceful state. Just loosen the jaw, soften the eyes, and slow your breath. begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Allow the wrists and the ankles to move gently. Breathe a little deeper. And stretch ourselves out. And finally, draw those legs back in. The simplest version of hug or spur or roll, whatever feels good, but just make it as soft as you can. And then we're going to gently onto the right side as we exhale. The body down towards the floor. Take a breath in, and then on the exhale, use the hands to climb back up. Move ourselves carefully into a seated posture. Spine adjust and lengthen. And then bring the heels in, hands even towards the heart. Too many H's. Closing the eyes, we take a breath in. Let the chin drop, draw the belly to the spine, and bow gently to the floor to seal our practice for the evening. Use the breath coming back in to lift the spine for us. Letting the head float up and the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed and feel relaxed. See you on the mat again soon. Take care.